The major obstacle to accepting the C-Rex model is our clear and obvious perception that the world around us is real. How can it not be? I see it, touch it, hear it, taste and smell it. It's always there, always solid and stable. I experience it directly every waking minute of my life. It's just silly to say it doesn't exist. And that means that the C-Rex model is silly as well. My response to that, as always, is revisit your assumptions. In this case, the assumption that we experience the world directly is false. No one has ever experienced this alleged world directly, and no one ever will. Weird, huh? Spend more time with your hands, I suggest to Carl. He stares at me blankly. Seriously, give your hands some serious thought. Make an effort to appreciate your hands. Move them, observe them, feel their actual connectedness to you. Carl is studying his hands like he's never really seen them before. Or maybe he's messing with me. I can't read people. Whenever I want to settle down and remind myself that I have this experience of a body in a space-time energy-matter amusement park, I study my hands. I do this many times a day. They remind me of where I am and how awesome it is, and that it can all change at any moment. As you appreciate your hands, I tell Carl, reflect on the fact that you do not and cannot experience your hands directly. He holds them up to show me, directly, and exhibits smug remorse at having defeated my foolish statement so easily. You don't experience your hands directly, I say. The only thing you perceive directly is consciousness, so you experience the perception of your hands directly. But you experience your hands themselves, and your brain and beer and past indirectly. What's the difference between directly and indirectly? The only thing you perceive directly is perception itself, consciousness. Like my hands? No, like your perception of your hands. But not my actual hands. Not so actual, actually. In philosophy, this is called the veil of perception, meaning that all we really perceive is ideas of things, never the things themselves. My hands, for instance, are not experienced directly by me, but through sensory receptors that transmit electrochemical signals through a nervous system to a brain where they are interpreted and create the perception of hands. But obviously, that whole sensory system, brain included, is just an idea. No matter how strongly I believe my hands and brain are real, they never rise above the level of non-probable possibility. This universe we experience can never be more than a belief. There's no proof, or even evidence, that physical reality is real. This is what it means to say that Maya's palace of delusion is constructed entirely of wisps of dream stuff. Brainwashed U-Rex cult members, you, I assume, believe in the existence of a physical universe out there, but no one has ever perceived it directly, and no one ever will. Hence, the strange loop of consensus reality. We all agree that the universe is really out there, those agreeing with us being themselves out there. Everything we experience through the senses is already second-hand at the moment of perception, because the brain doesn't perceive anything. It just sits in its light-proof box and translates incoming sense data into perceptions. Your alleged brain doesn't see, hear, taste, or touch anything. You have no direct contact with a universe out there, only an internal movie, a projection on the screen of the mind. No one can ever perceive anything out there directly. That clear and obvious truth seems like something that scientists should preface every statement with, not bury. But if they don't bury it, it buries them. Their credibility might suffer if they have to begin every statement with, "This is just baseless fiction masquerading as solid fact, of course, but..." We are programmed from birth to suspend disbelief and let ourselves pretend reality is real. But if we want to stop pretending and find out what's really real, we have to re-engage our critical disbelief systems and become rabidly, fanatically, pathologically skeptical. Philosophy calls it extreme skepticism. I call it distinguishing the known from the believed, which doesn't seem that extreme to me. You have to draw a line somewhere, and between belief and knowledge seems like a good place to do it. I can assert that I live in the 21st century, but that's just a belief based on rumor and hearsay, or it could be the lingering effects of last night's 34th century audience participation hypnosis event, which I was instructed to forget I attended, or the setting of an in-flight period piece sense movie being piped into my cryogenically suspended brain during extended space travel, or any of countless other scenarios. How can I be sure? The same way I can be sure of anything. I can't. It might seem at first that C-Rex isn't possible because our reality is just too real to be a dreamlike phenomenon. But when we start looking at what we really know, and how we know, and the nature of knowing, then the unreality of reality is revealed. We are only conscious of consciousness. That's a powerful reminder of what cannot be accepted as real. I am not aware of my hands. Rather, the three, I, awareness, and hands, are one. Perceiver, perception, perceived, consciousness. We develop our sense of object permanence by the age of 2. But we might still wonder if something really exists when we no longer observe it. We outgrow such questions, but not because we answered them. It's perfectly valid to ask, how do I know my bicycle really exists when I don't see it? The answer is, I don't. The better question is, how do I know my bicycle exists when I do see it? The answer is, I don't. The best question is, then how the hell do I know anything exists? The answer is, I don't. Is something true when I am conscious of it? No. Consciousness is true, but the content of consciousness is not. I can never perceive the external world directly, but I do perceive perception directly. My perception of a cheeseburger does not prove the existence of an actual cheeseburger, but the perception itself is perfectly real and valid to me. The cheeseburger is as real as it seems. Strength of perception varies, so the sight, smell, taste, and feel of any given cheeseburger in hand is more real than any given cheeseburger in imagination. But both cheeseburgers are just perceptions, one more real, but neither more true. Perception is perception, I say to Carl. It doesn't have to be qualified because it is what it is. My perception of a cheeseburger and my perception of the stars are equally valid. However, if I extrapolate from those perceptions to declare that I have a physical body in a time-space, energy-matter universe full of cheeseburgers and stars, then I have wandered off into baseless speculation by trying to weave a physical universe from wisps of dream stuff. Which everyone does, he says. Sure, which everyone does, if there really is an everyone, instead of just a lot of wispy dream stuff. Ah, yes, says the wispy dream stuff I call Carl. Of course. But, continues the wispy dream stuff I call me, if I don't try to extrapolate a physical universe based on my perceptions, then there is no conflict. My cheeseburger generates sensory awareness, which is a reality in the perceptual tripartite of my being, so when that perception exists, it is a part of me, of my me-ness and now-ness. So, if the universe isn't real, asks Carl, examining his hands, then where does it come from? As real as it is to you is as real as it is, I say with a vague sense of self-plagiarization. Then I realize that I need to say that same thing using only two-letter words. Is as it is to, me, is as it is, I say triumphantly. Huh? Says Carl, using 3 letters. Never mind, I say. Paradigm hopping is a tricky business. There are a lot of ramifications of C-Rex that are very difficult to process theoretically. It's easy to say that consciousness is not within time and space, but to really understand it, you have to relax out of all your time-hardened, emotionally empowered beliefs that tell you otherwise. You don't need any new beliefs, but you will begin to see how entrenched and inflexible your old ones really are. There is no time or space. There is only consciousness. There is no before or after, no here or there. There is only is. So, to answer your question, the universe comes from consciousness, and consciousness is. And that answer satisfies you? Perfectly. I've called C-Rex home for more than 20 years, and I understand the things I'm saying directly, not based on weak intermediaries like words or concepts or beliefs. I see everything forever in all directions. I see no mystery or possibility of mystery anywhere, and I see that there's no place for mystery to hide. I hope I'm conveying something of the simplicity and obviousness of all this. Trying to express the inexpressible is a fool's errand, but I've never let that stop me. This is simple stuff, and to get it, you gotta get simple. Believing or disbelieving C-Rex is irrelevant. If C-Rex is not your state of reality, then it's just another concept toy you can play with and forget. But you've come this far, so why not take it for a spin? Treat it like a lens and reassess your world through it. See how everything resolves into clarity. Look around. Look at everything and everyone. Look at any mystery. Ask any question. Look at what you're most sure of, your hands, your brain, a cheeseburger, and ask how you know they're real. The answer is, You never do.